It's a long story. He's 53, and he appeared to follow the Nation of Islam diet stuff, the regular physical fitness and all that, and the regular diet, and he dies of a massive heart attack at 53. It just, shoot, you know, and he then went against, the National Negro, and the National Negro had made some move down in San Diego when he was down there. And, I listened to that brother's tapes. He went to South Africa way years ago before I did. And, it was deep in apartheid. He went over there in the 80s. He used to be the minister in LA a long time ago. And you could tell what it was, anyway. But he was serious about what he was serious about. The white man was technically the devil, and Weinstein, Goldstein, he used to, so it might have been semi-jahiliyyah, but not heavy doses of it, but he was serious about it. That's enough to get you killed. Okay, so if you remember this program, if you remember the lineup, I could visualize the Zionists now. They the ones that helped hook that up. National Press Club and all that. And they got a lineup of Negroes that won't wait. So they thought it was going to be a real clown show, that it's going to be full of that flowery vocabulary. And you could tell the way Fox News interviewed some of those people that they wasn't afraid of them. Because what's the guy that got fired about a year or two ago from Fox News? The big time he got fired. He used to have, the Hummer driver, that like girls a lot, no specific ethics or morality. That's the way you could see that ain't, and it, what did y'all call them, the hotel hustlers? You can see it. You don't have to, the only people that don't see it is the people that's being hustled. Everybody, and they have to be squares. They have to be somebody that just walked off the Howard campus somewhere, out of high school. Everybody else, they know what it is. But anyway, so what happened was, I think we came in somewhere near the end of the middle, and that changed the whole, all that clownery. It exposed that if you think you're going to be a clown on this show, you're going to be a clown. And man, when the Zionists began to hear that stuff, they said, my God, they played it that night. They played it once more at 1:30, and that was it. By that time, by the morning time, what's the name, it called in, Abraham Foxman and said, get that off the air. That was it, So that's why I brought them out. And this one about in South Africa, it's kind of, to be historically accurate can be, it could be a curse or it could be a blessing. That's right. Because that thing Napoleon had, coupe d'or, when he can go on the battlefield and look and see all the advantages and disadvantages of the battlefield right away. It's a few people have that. You know, they have it. And they are, and all his battles, except with Wellington, he could see everything. You know, and going to Russia, that's kind of a little mistake there too. Running off where anybody would see the size of that place and the winter. Anyway, it knocked him over, and it knocked over everybody that came after him too. But anyway, when they listened to us on that program, they cut it right away. They cut it right away because they realized that this stuff is thought out, it's planned. You know what I mean? Okay, now about historical accuracy. We're going through a heavy state of that right now. Because I was thinking like, well, you get older, you get a little, you know what I mean, a little less accurate and stuff. That's not true. That's not what's happening. What's happening now is this thing is getting pinpoint accurate. I mean, almost day to day, you know, being able to forecast and outline the stuff that's going on. I mean, I don't know if you recognize it, if y'all recognize it, but I recognize it with myself. It's getting deadly. I mean, and it's getting, you don't want to even say nothing sometimes because of man, but it's our duty. Okay, now, so I want to mention a few things here that will help put where we are into perspective. So, and then I'll pass it around, or at least some of it around after I finish. Okay. This is, I just had one little copy. I got a few more of mine, and then I'll pass this so you can read it. To see, this is just, I'm dealing with, at the top of this one is 12/17/86. If you go down to well-visited Fahim, we don't want to get into that. But Rand Chabot, that's Lake Chabot. You can see at the top, Rand 10 miles, and heavy bag, you know what I mean? And it also means a bag that I would wear that would, good God Almighty. Now down on 12/20, begin trip in Vega, turned around. Then I turned around, left a couple of days later. I rented a car for a trip, left at 1:30, arrived Tuesday night, slept in the Arlington parking lot. That's Arlington, Texas. So I'm going through that area. I imagine, yeah. I slept in the parking lot because Dallas was a few blocks. I could have got there, but I just said, I'm going to go to sleep. Because was headed to Dallas. So at the program, I'm the chairman of the program on the 25th, that's Christmas Day. We have a meeting with Dr. Siddiqui, Zafar Bangash, Muhammad Barker, one of our friends, and a mixed lecture. That was a good program. At that program, I'm the chairman of that program. That's and it's mixed lectures on the 26th. I remember it was a good lecture on Zuhud from one of our brothers gave a good lecture on Zuhud. That's when I first became aware of the subject, you know, about the Zahid, Hajj Masood, in fact, which was an Iranian. I want to just stop and mention, Hajj Masood was an Iranian. He he had did, he lived here, he was married to a white lady, and as far as the MSA, PSG, he was one of the good speakers at that time. Because at that time they didn't have, like now they got these rag-headed ulama everywhere. They didn't have them in those days. The best lectures were the students, and he had been here for a long time. He had been a student in Qum for about 6 years, so he had the foundation of, he was one of their main speakers. We spoke on the platform all the time. And his lecture, he was a good speaker and he did a good job. Around in Illinois and all that, Carbondale. In Carbondale, there was a guy, Syed Singhi. Syed the Chinaman. He was an Arab Chinaman, a Saudi Chinaman. That's why they call him Syed Singhi, you know. He was Syed, but he was a Chinaman, you know. But he was pure Wahhabi. You wouldn't, hey man, he was fully Wahhabiized. There were Malaysians here. In those days, it was different in Indiana and those places. It was tons of Malaysians. And other places up in Oregon, they had certain contracts with. Anyway, the Malaysians, we considered the Malaysians some of the best Muslims. They were good Muslims. They really, at that time, they had just had a problem with Anwar Ibrahim. You go back to 81, he left the student movement and he got mixed up in politics. Anyway, all of that stuff. So we was right in the mix of all of those things. So you can see that anything that's happening now, all of those people that are up there in that, we done already been through with them. I mean, been with it, we've been with them, we know them and all of that. But anyway, so this guy, with Haj Massoud, what they did is that Haj Massoud used to deal with Malaysians a lot, the young students. And sometimes he was influencing them toward Shiism a little bit, you know. Not a little bit, a lot. So he had a crew there. And now that was the worst thing to do, because see, if Wahda is the key, and Sunnis and Shias are equal and all of that, then they used to call it Shia Dawa. Then it wasn't a rule, but it would be like, if we're all equal, then it's okay to talk about that stuff. But Sunnis stay Sunnis, Shias stay Shias, and we'll have okay. So suddenly, the brother Haj Massoud was, he had converted a whole crew in that area, in the Midwest. That means in Kansas and Missouri. He was influencing all of them. So, to show you how dirty the Saudis are, with Haj Massoud, they had one of the crews that went back to Malaysia. Now he's believing he done converted them all to Shiism. That crew gets back, and this is rare for Malaysians. They borrow a whole lot of money from him to establish a masjid. He even puts his house on, gets a loan on his house. And he don't hear from them guys anymore. It was a Saudi trick. It was a dirty, mean Saudi trick, You guys pretend to be, he's the main one in this country pushing that. Well, it was one in it was one in Nevada trying to pull the same thing. I mean, to me, it didn't make any difference. But, you know, they got, they destroyed his whole family and everything by getting those loans, and they disappeared. He couldn't go to Malaysia and find them. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, Hajj Masood. Now, on these things right here, you can see on the 27th, I left Dallas, going to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Stayed all day. I left down there at 7:30 p.m. Then on the 28th, I was back in Dallas for the main program at Muhammad Al-Asi. Then I left in the afternoon for Tulsa. It's another program going. There's another big program with the Arabs. The Arab Shias, yeah. So we in Tulsa, then we leave Tulsa and we go back to Dallas. Finally on New Year's, we're leaving Dallas, and we go back to Baton Rouge, Louisiana again. But this is a meeting at the masjid. You know, they had a nice masjid there. In fact, they had a lot of Malaysians. I had spoke in Baton Rouge. Well, this type of schedule was common at that time. No, you can see on the other page. We go over to the other page. This might go back a little. You see Berkeley Juma, Rand. What is this? Okay. You see Rand Chabot and an iron, but this is the top of the next page where it has $146 donation. Okay, if you look down at the left, it says notebooks missing. You see that? And it says 4 date books. And then accordion folder missing. But I labeled it as a big victory. That means all of the stuff that I have like this, all of that stuff is missing. So that means it's your whole record. But it wasn't a big deal because all of this stuff, I had a clipboard and I wrote all this stuff like this. So everything on here that they stole, I had it in another folder. You know, the minute, all of this stuff. You see what I mean? So they stole the solid stuff. But I had the original draft of all the notes, you know. So, but I call it a big victory because they showed their hand. They showed their hand. Ran Chabot's Lake. Chabot Bass Cove, that means we ran all the way around the lake and then back through Bass Cove. That means that was a 13-mile run, easy. And of course, my son is arrested that night. My other son is arrested the next night. That's because we're going to have a program on the next page. We had a program, Masjid al-Islam Clears the Air, on December the 14th, 86. So they arrested them. I don't know if you can see it. They arrested them on the 10th, and then, you know, before the program. So anyway, the next page, we're back to, what is that, 126? Okay, then I'll give you, you could hold on to them, and I'll give you this right here. But, license flowers. You could see right here, 131. That mean, remember I was telling you about, we was dumping some trash on Railroad Avenue, and right here it says gun pulled. So the guy pulled a gun, and I told, you know, I wasn't paying no attention to him. Hell's Angels looking guy, pulled up, You can't dump that trash here. Of course, he don't have nothing to do with it, but they thought since he had a gun, that I would listen to what he said. And I moved toward him. Who you talking to? What's wrong with you? That's when they notated this nigga is martyrdom prone because he's evidently not influenced by that. So I'll give you that, and you'll see that date is the 31st, 87. Well, you can see all these meetings on San Francisco State Malcolm X program, and that's on the 3rd. Of course, ran every day, so I could tell where I ran. I ran the loop, I ran Chabot, but Chabot, this is just running behind the dam, running 8 miles, ran Chabot again, ran the loop. That's a short run. The loop, you just go around and no, that's okay. Yeah, he already gave it to you. No, I'm gonna pass this so you can verify what I'm saying, and I have a reason for why I'm doing this. 7th of February. Hujjatul Islam Sayyid Zaki Suwaid. He's big in the Islamic movement. In fact, when he was in Malaysia, Indonesia, he was leading the prayer. He's a Shia imam, and he got shot in the back of the head when he was leading the prayer. One of Saddam's agents. He was part of the Islamic movement from Iraq. See, all the people you see in the news from Iraq, like if it's the spokesman from some president or prime minister, in the old days, if they was over here, we were speaking on the same programs. So the movement from Iraq, this guy, yeah, because he was telling me, he said, yeah, I was leading the prayers, and all of a sudden, I just went down and I turned over, he said, and I started reciting Al-Fatiha, He was doing this more or less automatic, but he was shot in the head, leading the prayer, but he didn't die. And so that's how serious it was at that time to be against Saddam, because he sent agents all over the world to trace down people, and the Saudis did too. See, you notice like sometime they'll mention Big Sheikh so-and-so, like the big security guy now that's been blowing the whistle on Saudi Arabia. You notice they mention they have his son and daughter. That's the policy. If you would remember, do you remember some Arabs that used to be going, some Saudis that would be going back to Arabia and they would leave like thobes and all their property over there? Okay, but they would all that stuff that we would have, they would be leaving and going back. They did a newsletter called The Monitor. They were Shias from Saudi Arabia. We are just really super friends. A few of them came here every now and then, but eventually Saudi Arabia conned them and said, if you come back, if you do this, we're gonna improve. Shoot. Anyway, so right here, 211 is airport, missed early flight, San Francisco to Kansas City, Manhattan, Kansas, global impact of Islam. This is K-State Union, yeah, that means it. And remember, it has right here, Hajj Masood. It was a good program, and I'm looking for something else I had wrote down here. Maybe I didn't copy it. No, maybe I did.
What makes a good program?
This program, uh, the best programs that I attended on Malcolm X was the ones that Iranian brothers had. And this is the crew: Manhattan, Kansas, Kansas City, Wichita. The weightlifter, there's a guy here that used to be Mr. Kansas, Iranian. He was in Wichita, the one that's married to the white lady. They have, okay. A good program, this is the and then we have Lawrence, Kansas here. A good program is a program where the vibe is good, we get the good information out, and at this program, in fact, this is the program where I decided not to, when you first become a Muslim, you're kind of strict. So the sisters come up, brother, that was a good program. So this is the last program, in fact, that I just accepted the hug, because I used to stiffen up, and in the beginning, I would actually push him off. And then the sisters would say, they would be like, oh, what's wrong with you? And then you can't do nothing about it. If you say, like I did up in Michigan, no, sister, this is out of respect, and da-da-da-da-da, and hey, they say, hey, man, I ain't going for that. You insult them, that's basically what it is. This last one, I'm looking for the trip that we made, and I had the wire was clipped on one of the cars. I guess it don't say that on. Does it say that on any of those over there? Let me see. Gun pulled. Da 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 da. Da. Fuel filter. Vega. Da 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 da. Yeah, here it is. Right here. On 2/3/87. That means the wire was clipped on the Fiat, just so you can't go anywhere. You'll notice that I left going somewhere in the Vega, and I turned around and rented a car. Okay, that's around the same time. What I'm saying that is so that everybody will understand. When I'm talking about the little stuff around here, this stuff has been going on since before then, because this was way late in the game. This is 87 and 86. Okay, but you can see the pace of activity. Okay, now wait just a minute now. See the pace of that activity, then when we come here, like that's 89. And it's a modest pace of because we're raising funds, we're getting all that stuff together, and so, but then, just like over there, you can remember the pace of activity. The pace of activity, boom, 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 with books going out here, going over there, all the time. It was always, so the pace of activity was very serious. Then when we moved over here, right, let's say that's 96, we might have bought the place, and 98, by 98, well, 97, by 98, we're in here, okay, but so by 98, we're in here. Okay, then by 99 and 2001, we're having all of those programs. Remember, we're going downtown this day, that day. We're working, it's a hot pace. And we start our newsletter, say in 95. I think we started in 95, As-Sabiqun. And all of that writing really is classical writing. I mean, when you read it, it is classical writing. It deals with that environment. And it is quality, it seems like, That's quality writing. It ain't no doubt about it. Okay. Now we dealt with the period where there's a slowdown. On all of these periods, there's a slowdown period. Okay, we're just coming out of a slowdown period. So when you mentioned priorities the other day, I wanted you to get a picture of where we are now. Yeah, where we are now. And see, you don't have to worry about, well, what are we going to do and how are we going to do it? You don't have to worry. In a little while, that pace, bam, is going to pick up. I know the pace is going to pick up because, remember, I wasn't cutting no grass. I wasn't doing nothing. If you look at the thing over there, I done got started. I did this and because I already know. You know, I done been through this before. This is just a time when it's happening, and there'll be a period you won't have to worry. It doesn't make any difference. Let me put it this way. It doesn't make a difference about what is done to us. Because every one of these times, all this stuff, the people was doing this all the time. And remember, these are just things that I would make notes of. And those pages is only about 2 months. That's just 2 months. That's the end of '86, and going up to February. That ain't nothing. That's not no. Now you got to remember now. So just remember, just say 35 or 40 years of that stuff. Technically, it's 40 years of that stuff, all the time at that same rate. Sometimes a little more condensed. Sometimes you get a little breather. But it's a constant pace. It's present, it's evident, and it's there all the time. And when we'll get into some of the other things, but when we mention anticipation and expectation, so we anticipate serious challenges. We anticipate it. Why? We always get it. You can't get it, right? The history demands that challenges will be consistent, and we're going to deal with them. And challenges are good. So you remember, in order to do this the way we've been doing it, we had to prepare our attitude. Attitude is a position. Attitude is where the plane is and according to the horizon. Attitude, if you take a stand like this, that's an attitude also, right? It's a position. So attitude means that you have to, this is not new. Any of the lectures that you hear, all the stuff we say here is very repetitive. It ain't new, it's evolved a little bit higher than before, because we had to gain from Jump Street. We had to gain from Jump Street. Okay. So anticipation of challenges is normal. Okay. What are we going to do with challenges? We're going to embrace them. We're going to embrace challenges. Hey, man, we're just getting some challenges today. Might as well, you're going to get them anyway. If you have another attitude, you're going to get tired and you're going to quit. You're going to have a blackout or a brownout. Blackout is when all the lights go out, you go home and you retire, finished. Brownouts is when, the lights don't blow out, but they, you see the little brown. Remember they used to have, years ago, they used to have brownouts on the East Coast. I don't know if you remember. That was a while ago, back in the 70s and stuff, so that might have been. Brownouts is when the lights the transform, whatever they have, they're getting overloaded, and you see the lights go on, flicker on and off, and that's called a brownout. That happens in movement also. People don't quit, but they have a little period where they, okay, we don't have those, because everything we've been doing it naturally, according to our, if you can control the pace of the fight, you controlling the fight, right? And then when you go to psychological guerrilla warfare, you change and remember, they let us do that. We're going to change it to psychological. Well, we're going to wear this nigga out because we're going to do all this and all that. They don't know they've been doing it. They didn't forgot. We want it to be psychological warfare because we know where we've adjusted to. We know we're happy with psychological, because psychological is, if we scare you and you already know I'm behind the bush, you can't scare nobody, right? So if we already been doing all of that stuff, I might have showed y'all a long time ago a bottle with a little oil on it, like it was on the roof. One of them water bottles, it fits right over the drain. And it picks up the tar, but it plugs up the roof, so the roof gets full of water and it destroys everything. When I'd go up on our property in California and I'd look and I'd pull one of them things out, and because that's what they would do, and especially on the years where it'd be heavy rain. And I had one spark plug. I don't know who run off with it, but where a spark plug goes down and across. This spark plug was bent straight. I don't know if you remember that. Well, that's good. That means we got a witness. It was bent straight. And we was looking in our engine, and the guy with me, of course, he was the police, but he didn't know that his other police friend had sabotaged the car. I'm getting ready to go on a trip. And it's, so he said, well, let's look at the spark plug. So one of them he pulled out, had a little oil on it, but it was straight like that. That means it wasn't, where you got to gap, in the old days, you had a little thing to gap the spark plugs just to right, So if that thing is bent straight, the car could blow up on you. I don't know, I'm just exaggerating, but it won't run smooth. I asked him, how did that happen? I don't know. He said, I don't know. It's not possible for that engine to straighten out a spark plug at the bottom. It's just not possible. But all that stuff has been going on. So when we say, oh, hey, boss man, why don't you just change it from physical, that means you ain't gonna hurt nobody, to psychological. And they did it. And we started having super victories. Just like the 86 victory, when they stole all our stuff, when they do all of that. Okay, they think you're gonna be, nobody wants anybody to know their business. Yeah, invaders the privacy, and especially in those days, like know my business now, fine, no problem. But at that time, I didn't like that. You know what I mean? Because, hey, man, Peckerwood getting in the business, and he got all the stuff that we got laid out. Psychological guerrilla warfare, I just mentioned the one where there was an article, a radical group tries to branch out or stretches out, So that's when we opened the office, and we had remodeled. We have 5 buildings in that big one long, and the 2 on the end, we remodeled those totally. They very nice. They was very nice. Don't worry, we'll get it back. So anyway, we remodeled them, and one of the offices is where that sign, Islamic Institute for Counter-Zionist American Psychological Warfare. Big sign. So you don't have to do nothing, just put that sign out and everybody drive by. I could see them pull over and stop and they would look at that sign and they would be trying to process what it means. Especially, it's a lot of Arabs around there, a lot of Yemenis, but they not revolutionary Yemenis, but still, they own all the stores in the black neighborhood there, the Chinese used to own. So everybody would stop by, and I could see them from inside. They'd look at that boy, and they'd be thinking. Some people would actually pull over and stay there 5 minutes, some 10 minutes, just trying to process it. That's the first sign Mukhtar pulled down. So, Islamic Institute for Counter-Zionist American Psychological Warfare, we had a couple of programs here. And they wrote about them in the Zionists. Because in those days, we was harassing them. You gotta remember, we're harassing them. Think about it. If you would have seen any of the programs we had on Zionism, we never lost any of them. Why? We don't take them serious. We just make fun of them. And the most tame of them was the one with Sean Hannity. Half the time we hollering at the rabbi, "Rabbi, go back, sit your butt down." And guess what? In the whole auditorium at UCLA, the rabbi goes and sits down. Right? And were the Muslims happy? All them guys that used to come around, the UCLA crew? Oh, you made them cry. You made the kids cry. I said, that's fine, that's great. The students, they were so embarrassed by how the rabbi and the way I was treating him. Because I treat the Zionists like, where you clown them. And they can't handle it. They hate it because you're supposed to respect us. We're Zionists, right? Oh, so, man, I just have a good time. And that means the Muslims should have invited me to every anti-Zionist program they ever had. Because the guy was successful. It started in '85. With UC Davis. Boy, that was a good program. And the Muslims were panicked. One of the guys spoke here some years ago from Al-Auda. That's the Arab, the return. Al-Auda, return. The Palestine. So they was there, the Iranians had invited me, and I went out there, and they was thinking, oh man, the Jews put out a statement about all the good things they did in history. And you know what? I had looked up Natura Carte. I had got their whole spiel. Man alive. And I went out there and they said, they thought they hung it up all over the place. And they said, the brothers gave me a copy. This is what they're saying. I said, yeah, fine. So I ran down the thing. I said, when the Ethiopians in 1935 begged, Mussolini was using poison gas, and they begged the Jewish Congress, the Jews in Ethiopia, for help. They told them, kiss they behind. And I went on down the line, then I threw the paper out in the audience. I should be the star on every anti-Zionist show, but they wouldn't do it. They would call Abdul Malik. They call everybody but me. And you saw we had the Triangle of Terror was the Zionists, the USA, and in those days it was apartheid. We had many programs. That was one of our favorite programs. Okay, the point is this. Psychological guerrilla warfare was when they came and listened to our program, and they took our flyer. If you followed it up, you would see they put our flyer on their program, Steve Emerson them, almost word for word what we wrote. Because for their people, that's horrible what I'm saying. But if 25% of their readers and listeners are Muslims, then we're doing dawah to the Muslims, right? Yeah, we're doing dawah to the Muslims. So what happened was, hey man, they put our stuff on just like we said it. And we said, alhamdulillah. I said, that's just like going up to the police, hey man, take your pistol out, put it up to your head and blow your brains out. And he'd do it, right? That's why after Sean Hannity, you never heard anything else from the Zionists about us. They said, for a few years, they was putting us everywhere because they was gonna try to do us like they did the National Negro. But remember, he's phony and we're not. And when they did him, they did me like they did him, vice versa. He got to playing, remember the violin? Mendelssohn, you remember that? Mendelssohn. Mendelssohn is a Jew that became a Christian. And Mendelssohn, the great, well, let's use the word National Negro. That's okay, that's okay. We'll get to it in a while. The National Negro, imagine as tough as he's supposed to be. Oh my God, next thing, the Zionist is on his case and he's telling everybody, I've never felt so depressed and oppressed in my life. Just because they said that, shoot. So he's hired to say that, to show the people that if I'm a big Negro and I'm scared of them, you gotta be, hey, he said, I don't know what they're talking about. Y'all must be crazy, So he's out there playing Mendelssohn to show them how he's come around. No. And when you meet them face to face, you don't have to worry about them no more. They're gonna get quiet on you. That's why you haven't heard nothing in the press. And all them programs that I was on, like I was on RT all the time, or everybody else. What's wrong with that? They couldn't stand it. That means the Zionist influence is insinuated in everything and everybody. And RT, what's the people that, was coming here all the time, answering all of them? What we learned here is the whole process of how things are arranged and prearranged. And when they want experts on shows, we've lived through the period to see when they were younger, when they were placed in and how they were brought up and placed in that position. We've seen that whole process with everybody. So look, this thing about longevity, we anticipated all of this because we had that game, we had the outline of the game way back then. Okay, so now, expectation. I don't want to go through this whole stuff about expectation. But did I ever tell you the story about the 12 rats that they placed in, okay, you've heard that before? 12, okay, since you haven't heard it, I'll tell you. Okay, no, this is a study. It's on hope and expectation. The one, I'm gonna tell you two of the studies. One was done in Oakland in 1968, and it was by a Jewish fellow. And it was on students and expectation. And they took a whole group of students, and they didn't tell the students nothing, they just selected the students. And then they took the teachers and they selected a group of teachers. Now these students were just randomly selected. And they took these group of teachers and they told them that we have given you the best students in the Oakland Unified School District. And this study comes from research in your records, and we find that you have the most adaptability, the ability to draw the best out of the students and everything. And so we're placing you two together. And at the end of that, the cycle, the average progress was 3 years per student in 1 year. And so when they gave the teachers the results, they said, well, you gave us the best students. So they said, no, we didn't give you the best students. We chose their name out of a hat. They said, well, it was us. We're the best teachers. I said, no, we chose your name out of a hat too. What was the variable? The only variable was the expectation that the teacher had of the student. The students don't know anything about this, about the experiment. So the student might have been dumb as the word. Well, some of them had to be dumb if they was from Oakland, they was African American too, and then they had to be, hey man, they had to be low levels of reading, comprehension. It had to be some of them in there. But they progressed 3 years. Why? Because the teacher would say, that person, they gave me the best students, and that person can learn this. I just have to find a way to bring it out of them. Or I have it in myself. I'm one of the best teachers. I can do this. You know what I mean? So the expectation that the teacher had of the student was the only variable. And they progressed 3 years. That's the deal with expectation. When you're expected to succeed, and people treat you like that, it has an effect on you. Just like Harvard, Yale, and all them places, they treat those students like, we expect you to be Supreme Court justices. We expect you to be such and such. When they come out, they expect it of themselves. They just expect it, right? Because the system breeds that expectation into them. Okay. The other was what I was telling you about the rats. You know, where the white man always, when he want to study us, he study rats. Like the rat that they get the little shot of cocaine and he pushed the button until he died. You do. Hey man, he don't eat no food. Bam, boy, that's good. And he do it, hey man, he be looking like the Negro look. And that's the way until he died. He died on the spot. Okay, they took 12 rats, about the same size, same age, the same species, and they separated them into 2 groups, 6 in one group, 6 in another. And they took one group and they put them in the water, and they swam around for an average of 52 minutes and died. I mean, they gave up. Now, the other rats, the same size, same species, they put them in the water. And at 47 minutes, 5 minutes before they probably gonna just call it a day, they take them out of the water. They feed they feed them and dry them off and everything, right? Then they put them back in the water. They swam around then for an average of 37 hours before they gave up. Why would they do that? Expectation. They remembered. The other ones didn't have no hope or expectation. They put them in the water, they swam around, they said, well, I'm going to give up the ghost. I'm tired, it's all over, right? But the other ones, at 47 minutes, just before they was, on average, by the clock, ready to give up, 5 more minutes later, they're going to say, hey, man, that's it for the brother. They took him out of the water, fed him, rested him up, and then put him back in the water. Why would they swim around 37 hours when the other ones last 52 minutes on average? It's because they had hope. They said, well, man, last time I was getting ready to give up, big old creature snatched me up, took me out of the water, dried me off. Boy, I was laying back, taking it easy. Then he dumped me back in the water. Every time he got tired, he remembered that. So he's waiting to be picked out of the water again. He have expectation. He have hope, right? That something is going to happen. Now, if that can happen with animals, with rats, what about the human being? I studied and read all this stuff. All this little old punk stuff they've been doing to me for 40, 50 years, it don't mean nothing. It means something to everybody else. They last, on an average, in our study, 5 years maximum movement. People don't think about it. They're trying to do good, and everything they do, they tie up something and it's nice, and then somebody, when they turn their head, they pull it loose, and the whole thing crumbles, right? How many people are going to do that over and over and over and over again? Unless they expect it, unless they thrive on it. Say, yeah, man, I can't wait till I put this together, then the boss man gonna come. As soon as I go have a little breakfast, he gonna untie it. You train yourself to like it. You gotta remember where we're going, during this period, during our time, this is not the time of Martin Luther King, then where you getting into Vietnam, that's white folks' business. Remember when we was kids, they had white folks' business and nigger business? Civil rights, that's okay. That's nigger business, right? Why oppose war in Vietnam? You remember what Martin Luther King's people, all the Negroes with him, they almost left him by himself just by opposing. That's white folks' business, man. They're going to take off all the programs, boss man, and pass for us. We're going to lose all of that talking about Vietnam, right? King was devastated. He was devastated because it's white folks' business. Now imagine us. We in global white folks' business, and we're more accurate than anybody in the world, consistently. Think about it now, like, okay, scholar so-and-so, he was right 4 or 5 times. But the news commentators, the specialists, right? The people on C-SPAN and the analyzers, they're not right anything like, or they don't have a correct analysis or how to use it. If they are 30% accurate, they're doing good. If they're right 30% of the time, they doing real good. Well, 300. If they batting 300, they doing good. But none of them are batting 950. Nobody's batting 950, but us. What I'm saying is, huh?
They're not getting any pressure. They're just allowed to talk. Right. Not getting any pushback. Right.
That's the reason. That is exactly the reason. The reason Miller Yellow and them, the New York imams and all of them, they don't put themselves in a position to get challenged, right? They're not going to do it. That's what they're trying to avoid. It's like my friends don't understand in California, man, that stuff gets you put in jail. Yeah. I said, yeah, that's, they don't understand that because in the game that we was in, you trying to avoid the police. You don't want to go to jail. We thrive on the police. You know, we thrive on the police because the more contact you have, the stronger, the more you got to lift the weight, the stronger you're going to get. It's automatic. Okay. That's one of the, not secrets, but that's one of the tools that we have used all along, that we knew from the beginning after all our research, that when we get into this, hey, number one, ain't nobody gonna run a ride with you, because I asked all my friends, I say, y'all wanna ride with me on this one? They said, no, indeed. The other one that had a lot of money and stuff, yeah, man, yeah, you got that thing? Yeah, we wanna go, I'm gonna make that move. But this one here, y'all wanna ride on this? No, man. No, I mean, where you're going out, you're searching for the police, you're looking for the system, you're looking for confrontation until you begin to manage it and dominate it. Pretty soon, what did we say? We domesticate the system. The system is domesticated. It don't make no difference. When you manage the flow, you are having an influence. When you have, imagine the average person, if they can control 10, 15% of their life, they're happy. Because their job and their rent and all that controls what they do, right? Suppose you can manage under these conditions 40, 50, 60, even higher percent of your what's happening with you. That's a miracle. It's not only a miracle, it's a part of the mission. And that's what I wanted to drift toward. Today, we always talking about rewrite our story, or write your own history. Well, say right around here, remember those phases that we all went through? Well, just visualize this is a center of activity. Visualize this in the house next door is the beginning stages of GHQ, General Headquarters, for the first stage of our development, in this right here, being a world-class organization. That means here we're going to have writers, editors, propagandists, right? Managers, all kind of job descriptions, you know what I mean? Right here, that's what we're going to do right here. We already have the place. We use the bookstore, we use downstairs, we use the little thing that we never used out there, all that. So, but now imagine that full of people is doing a specific job that we will influence, that we will teach, that we will train, okay? And no matter who they are, the job description will demand that they have to do the things on that job. It don't make a difference whether they're a government agent or whether they don't make, because this is your job description, right? And they have to do that job, or they should do that job, right? Okay, that means that Technically, we don't care who they are. We don't care who they are. Job description, right? Now, in order to do that, you have to have a certain mentality. You can't be paranoid. You can't be oversensitive. And we tricked them like that. We put in our stuff that 10 years ago, we're going to have to watch each other. We're going to have to, and Mukhtar wrote it in his, on one of the things. What about, you said this, that, and another. Yes, I said it. Because a boss man would think that's the way I'd be thinking based on what's going on. What he doing? He don't run nothing. We realized decades ago that it ain't gonna get there by hatred. You're not going to just sit around and develop a movement that is whatever movements are supposed to be. They're gonna put people, you can't not do that. They're gonna put them there. So when we put people there, our feeling is if we get 25% of the people that's on our side, we're happy with that. Happy with it. That's fine. I mean, that don't exist nowhere. You know what I mean? It don't exist in the United States. The proof of it is what we always say. All these groups, why they act the way they do. Everybody voting. Why are you voting? Because we want Donald Trump bad, and he lying all. Of course he's lying. That's his job to lie. And then Biden, you know what I mean? He's a good man. He poor boy died cancer. He's a good fella. So that they could be crazy as they want. Nobody is saying anything. Did anybody see the poor governor of California, Newsom, the other day with all them fires burning in California? The man was almost crying. It was sad. See if you can pull up Governor Newsom on the fire. Just Governor Newsom, California. Huh? That's right. 3 million. You got to be able to count. 3 and Look, this stuff we talked about in Juma, the evergreen state. That's Washington State. Washington apples. You ever see on the book the box, them big red apples? All them good apples come from Washington. Washington and Oregon, of course.
Ali sent from Cali with the orange sky.
The orange sky, can you imagine?
Right.
And people wonder why I ain't going back to California till I get ready. How old as I am, I'd die of smoke inhalation or something, you know what I mean? But look, the poor governor, he was saying something like, basically these, I'm paraphrasing, these deniers of, environmental deniers or something like that, climate change deniers. He's right in the middle of it. And this, can you imagine how it feels to be a governor, how helpless it is when, and nothing you can do. The fires are swooping through there, and remember now, these tornado fires are growing. Like the first one was a car fire, maybe 1 or 2 years ago. Last year, where there's a tornado within the fire tornado. That means that boy is swirling around and burning. You see those houses? Fires didn't used to burn like they burn. When they burn through, they knocks everything out. It's like a bombing, a big bombing of a city. And he's the governor. Hey man, it's like he was almost wanting to cry on TV. It was that sad. You know what I mean? And he was mad at the people. How can you deny this, right, man? What is wrong with y'all? Okay, now look at the world. China's a big country. It has super floods. Then it has some droughts. In Africa, they've had floods and droughts. Floods in one place and droughts in another. In America, floods, droughts. Another hurricane just blowing up, be in New Orleans next couple more hours or something. Hey, man, and it ain't that warm water, right? Just makes them 10 times as big. Okay, what politician is saying anything about that? That we got to stop right now. We ain't talking about stop and don't have no contact with each other. No, we're saying we have to put a freeze on life right now. Because everything we do is making it worse. Can you imagine? The more fire they have, the more smoke go up in there, the more greenhouse effect it have, and the more, right? And the more we drive the cars, the more. The more meat we eat. Can you imagine the methane put out by them cows? I don't know if they have any out here, but on the West Coast they have whole big giant feedlots. You can smell them for miles. Only thing on the feedlots is cows, and they feed them, they fatten them up. And they just lay there, and you could smell them for miles. And methane. The more meat you eat, why don't they go on a 1 week meat eating something or other? I don't know what. But you're going to have meat every day, like the old days? Because when somebody asks you, what you having today, that means, what's the meat? You having fish, you having beef, you having lamb, right? They don't ask you, what's the veggie you having today, right? The meal is the meat, right? And all other stuff is extra. That's the way people think. Hey man, what we gonna have today, right? Everybody thinks like that. There comes a time when that's it. You have to say to yourself, you have to say to the world, how many politicians even talking like that? I mean, do you know, this reads like the end of time, but the end of an era, you know what I mean? Like all the stuff we done read about, the crash of the Roman Empire, the fall of Pompeii, and all of that stuff. This is it. We're living in it. And everybody cruising right along. I said, man, they was cruising the same thing. But that's a trip though, right? That's really a trip to say, hey man, this is it. And then there is a little feeling, I can see how the governor's coming from, because we have to develop the ability. That's what we have to do. We can't depend on, we have to develop the ability to do significant things about this and to join with other people who are doing significant things. That's just what we have to do. That's what we was technically raised for. You know, and then that's a part of when you listen to the Chinese and he's having that award ceremony. The way they got it, China is that they gave us the thing and then they done hooked themselves up to some crooked trick, right? And that's the way people believe, right? They believe, yeah, well, China did it, and then they fixed themselves up. The award ceremony is when he's talking about, he's giving a praise and clarification to the people for success of the program. So he's outlining how they do it. So anybody that can later on listen to it. I was going to do it today, but that's an hour and 14 minutes. It's too long. How are they moving toward this moderately prosperous society? What kind of characteristics did it take for the workers, the medical people? And he's given awards to all of these people for the job that they did. So what you see is, and in one of them they said, he called the people, he said the people that was born in the late 90s and early 2000s, they, talking about them people, they took care of us, talking about the older people. They took care of us this time because during the other thing that they had, he said we took care of them. Now they're talking about Chinese politics and the Communist Party. And they said those people were angels, talking about the people that, you got to remember, they got 1.23 billion people and ain't hardly nobody. That's insane, right? I forget the number. It ain't, whatever it is, it ain't nothing. Chinese are dead, It's because of what they did. These people here, and they say, they hint it, those people who are moaning and groaning and talking out the side of their mouth, it's because you didn't handle your stuff right. And everybody sees that. The U.S., you're jealous and stupid. The Thucydides trap, you done fell into it. Instead of cooperating with the Chinese, you're whining and it ain't gonna work. Because nobody's ever able to stop the up-and-comer, right? Imagine, the champion, no matter how many challenges he get, he defended his championship for a while, but pretty soon he gotta go. Because he gets older. There's a time when the Chinese are gonna get off base. They're gonna miss it. They've been here 4,000 years. See, they've been through this so many times. It's just like us. They're like us. Iran, China, they've been there 5,000, they've been there 4,000 years, all of them. Because you read about Persia, that Persia, that's, shoot. They took the people out of Jerusalem in 585, 89 BC. That's 3,000 years. So they, they was capturing people by then. But anyway, the point is that other people have been through this before. And they have learned, in a way, they're like us. We've been through this before. We know the signs. Hey, man, those are the signs. Okay. Since they won't do anything about it, then we're called to live up to our own expectations. In other words, we have to develop our own expectations of ourselves. They have to evolve. They have to improve. We can't depend on. They're not doing it. They're just not talking about it. They don't care. And see, inertia, if you're in the car riding along and you hit on the brakes, I don't know how many people before seat belts used to wind up before the front window. When we was younger, before seat belts, when we would be driving, and the first thing you'd do when you hit the brakes, you would throw out your arm. So the kids, you know what I mean? You throw out your arm. I don't care who, you just throw out your arm. Right, because off they go, That means inertia, the body inside keeps moving just because the outside of that means the earth is headed in a certain direction. We can go past the point of no return, or not no return, the earth will always rebalance itself, but we want to do it like pretty quick because we don't want the thing to burn up and go, yeah, in 1,000,000 years it'll fix itself. It don't make no difference what we do. It'll rot everything out. It'll do the whole show again. It'll clean and purify, and it'll bring things along that could live in that environment after 1,000,000 years. But who wants to disappear, voluntarily disappear, right? Or become 4,000, 5,000 human beings left, and they living with gas masks on and stuff like dumb stuff. That's not necessary. That's not necessary. The earth we're living in is not necessary. And the world we live in is not necessary. We have opportunity, or we have a responsibility to fix this, to adjust this, right? To rearrange the human affairs so that we can leave the earth alone to cleanse and purify itself. That's our job. Okay. So for right here, it's just simple. There's 2 points that always was related to Dr. King was mobilization and organization. All those other groups could mobilize people. They'd be down there they're doing it now. They can mobilize, they can have 50,000 people out there now, just like that. Remember, we had 500,000 people down there, remember? They mobilized, but they wasn't organized. And there's a difference. Real substantial movement comes out of organization, not mobilization. Okay. Comprehensive thinkers. Well, as the Chinese were saying, they worked for this. They said nobody parachuted out of the sky. They use the word angels again. No angels parachuted out of the sky to do this. What they're saying is they're congratulating the people on this job that y'all just did. They're saying this is big. He's telling it, the premier of China, and they know it's true because they're living it. Right. They're saying this is epic, man. What y'all just did. Remember, this thing is killing everybody else. We're the biggest country in the world. We put locks on it, and don't say that they didn't know, because Don said, yeah, I was talking with the premier of China, right? Remember? What did you talk about? Well, we talked about the virus. That's doggone February the 7th. So he can't say he didn't know. They totally mishandled everything. All of Europe handled it bad, but America gets the mishandlization prize, right? And the Chinese, the Koreans, right? Even the Japanese sprinkle a little. You can see it's going to be the Asian century because they, go ahead.
It almost seems like just, you talk about the long march.
Yeah.
It's in their DNA.
It's in their DNA.
To come through and deal with those situations, because their last thing was epic, that they had to deal with, or it seems like it.
Yeah, yeah.
So each one of them, it's almost like, they're kind of being rewarded for their struggle.
Hey.
That's how, that's just how I've been looking at it.
They just used to, heroism. They kind of get, just overcoming impossible odds.
No, Chinese, you see the Chinese, the martial arts, hundreds of them, all that stuff, they've been doing it all their life. They're like Germans. People say, we ignore democracy. Germans ain't jumping up and down about democracy. They like Germans, Russians, those people, They like a strong leadership. They just like it. That's the way they are. Right? They're not like the people over here talking about, they taught these people how to be stupid like that. Just go and be an individual. Yeah, they needed that when they needed you to run across the Oregon Trail and develop or kill all the Indians. That's what they needed then. Individualism. But all the other people have been around thousands of years, and they know, no. Hey, man, the most powerful thing on earth is human interaction with each other. No matter how much money you have, if you have poor interactions, right, then that's bad. If, for instance, you're married, you like your wife like you, and certain things are going wrong, you don't want to eat, you go to sleep, you wake up, you want to go to sleep, right? No, and the money you have, you got money and you got a house, you got all of that stuff. But it's because you're human. That's what other people know. That's why they come here with family and they come with all of that. Everybody knows it. It's in their genes. Koreans come here and we got to work together. Why? 5,000 years of history done proved it, right? Come from India, China, all of that, those people know. They done taught us that dumb individualism. It's not individualism. It's human relations. I heard of something the other day. They used to talk about survival of the fittest, and they did some new studies, and it's not the survival of the fittest, it's the goodest or the best of something. In other words, the way the world is now, you need to cooperate with people, and people that learn how to cooperate with each other survived. And the ones that didn't, they didn't survive, right? But now in that group, when they tussle with each other for a little, who gonna have all the girls and who gonna, okay, that's so that the first shot go after the strongest bull or the strongest ram, you know what I mean? To keep the one that's powerful, and he's powerful for a while, and then pretty soon he just get old and he got to say, man, you gotta go, right? But that's for the perpetuation. That's a natural, the human being is not like that. Because the human being, there's a little bit of that, but the human being, the tribe takes care of the old people. They don't let them drop, you know what I mean? The old tribal societies honored everybody. They technically worship their ancestors. So the older you got, right, the more honor you got. Over here is the difference. The older you get, you're too old. The kids will tell you, my dear children, they said, Dad, you're not down with it. That is not, they figure there's a few little words you don't know and they think, well, maybe you don't know anything. This is the only place in the world that the young people know everything. And they perpetuate it on TV and everything. The youth, that used to be the youth know everything. Well, the youth don't know everything. Technically, they don't know nothing. They barely can tie their shoe because they haven't had no experience. And if you don't have tough experiences, you're not going to learn much. Anyway, let me try to they talk about all the health kits that they was congratulating the police, the army, the first responders, for going out and doing what they did, the employees, volunteers. And so he would say, we respect you and we thank you. And in organizations, they was doing research and development. And he was talking about how much we've learned from this right here. Then he even talked about overseas kits that they sent to overseas Chinese. You got to remember, not overseas Chinese, you got to remember who controls the economy in Indonesia. That's the biggest Muslim country. What's the second biggest? Malaysia. How many Chinamen there? Full of Chinamen. They have in Malaysia, and they probably have it in Indonesia, they have affirmative actions for Malays. All the Malay students who was here, they came on affirmative action. And they're most of the population. Why? Because the Chinese own everything. Well, they all close together. China, a big country, like China and India, always send people. People just get up and go, okay. So, no, it's unbelievable that they were thanking all of these people. And when you hear them, when y'all hear what he's talking about, you'll see how organized they are and how disorganized it is here. And it's a shame, but remember, this is the decline of America, and all of this stuff is accelerating the decline. It's accelerating the decline. Okay, and I want to move back to our job is this stuff will be in stages, of course, but our first stage here is this area, all of the stuff that we're looking at here. This is the house, this is GHQ. This is General Headquarters. That's how we want to think. General Headquarters mean that our team will operate out of here. That team will be structured and organized. The next step is to participate in fixing this thing. That's what we're training for. The first stage is simple. We just put it ain't simple. But when I say the stages, like we had our old As-Sabiquns, okay, we have to write new ones. So therefore, we have to have a staff of editors. And we'll do even old stuff like now people don't even listen to CDs anymore, but we got the machine. We'll duplicate them anyway. But we have to educate people. The education will come from CDs, from DVDs, from writings, As-Sabiquns, for this period. For that period, whatever we was doing, those things explain it. Technically, it explains this too. But fresh, see, we have to give, without saying it, leadership, guidance, and friendship. And we have to work on the self-image of people. We always do it, but I mean really, so they have the self-esteem, they think they can do it. People feel helpless. They don't feel, if the governor felt helpless, I know how everybody else feel, right? Hey man, what's going on? And then, of course, we know the human being feels good about themselves in relation to how much control they have over their own life. Right? Call it locus of control. The human being feels good about themselves according to the level of control that they have over their own life. And that's what they call locus of control. The locus, where is it located? And we don't want to get into internals and externals, but just briefly, externals are people that everything out there, they did it. I didn't pass the test because it was made for somebody else. External. Everything happening to you, right? It's coming from the outside. They doing that to us, like Don is now. They're gonna get rid of your suburbs. They're gonna get that. This man is crazy, but the people some of them believe it. No, no, it's insane. It's insane. No, they're gonna burn. Hey, man, look, he's doing his job. He was sent here to destroy America, to destroy the Republican Party, and to help Zionism reign supreme. That's what he was. But we have to not educate people. This is a strange dilemma. And we have to research ourselves. Is this stuff really happening? That's what we got. Is this stuff really happening? Say, yep, look like it's happening. Okay, now, what are we gonna do about it, right? Not what they're gonna do. Locus of control. We're internals. Internals mean those people who look in themselves and they try to determine their own future. They don't say the boss fired me because I was black or this, that. He said, it don't make no difference. What are we gonna do, right? What are we gonna do about this? If the people want to leave boss man to fry their children and boil them in oil or whatever he want to do with them, that's their business, but we ain't gonna try to let them get to ours. And I think that's our mission. I think that everything that happened leading up to here was specifically for this. Specifically at this time, too. Yeah. Yeah, we didn't, all the stuff that happened here, Africa, it ain't like you could protect yourself against it. I was in Colombia dealing with hundreds of thousands of dollars and big batches of cocaine. And I would be by myself. You think I was protecting myself? Colombians, it take $20 to get you killed. In those days, a hit, a professional hit. And the Negro is messing with all them Colombians. Now, I'm not talking about the Costinos, where they have 33% of Colombians are black, but they up on the coast. The ones I'm dealing with is the interior down, mixtures of mestizos, Indians, and all of that. And I'm the only Negro in town. If I'm in Bogota and that time is 5 million people, I didn't see another black almost never. You know, and I'm there, something is protecting me, and it ain't me. I ain't got enough sense to protect myself against all them Colombians. And Scarface is half true, you know what I mean? All that shooting and killing is it's about 40% accurate, you know, maybe 30%. Not that much killing, you know, but it's enough. And you're not in the friendliest game in the world either. It's not soccer, basketball, or swimming. This is the drug thing, cocaine, and okay. And all of that stuff, how the white man feel about Negroes, and you getting into his business, we, talking about white folks' business, we smack dab in it and beating him at it. How do you think he feels about it? How do you think about the little crew that they got on us right here? And they discuss us every once a week or once a month or something, right? How do you think they feel? Well, what did the nigga say this week? He said that. And they looking all around and they mad, right? They gotta be mad because, you know, we're trying to help them. Well, anyway, we'll try to move toward a close. But in the long run, some of those people are gonna help. that's how you want to look at humanity, you know. Whether humanity's bad, whether humanity's good, or whether humanity's a mixture of both. So therefore, it's our job to go and deal with the human being and try to bring the best out of humanity. And that's why we said we're going to start with Negroes, because they know us. That means it definitely won't work, or it might. You know what I mean? No, I mean, hey, why should we start with people that don't know us? All the Negroes is a cut our throat, and each one of them you can say, let's see. Well, I tried to cut that nigga's throat 14 times myself personally, and he's still here. I tried to run over him in my car 8 times, and he's still here, right? I tried to drop something on his head 14 times, and he's still here, right? They know that. They have done that. So eventually, the numbers, it's good that they've done that, because you don't have to reintroduce, suppose there's some new people. You got to introduce, oh, we're the nice guys, we wouldn't hurt nobody, and it'd take years for people to get the idea, you know what I mean? But the people, they already know that. So we're giving them first crack. Plus, if China can do it with Chinese characteristics, the Negro can do this with Negro characteristics. Yeah, I mean, Islam with Negro characteristics. Why? Because I think that's what it was meant to be, like that. So, freedom rides, you know, civil rights, black power, black liberation army, one step after another. And it comes to Islam. They sold our birthright, but we ain't never sold it. Yeah, they gave it away, but they have to see what they gave away. Suppose a handful of them really starts incorporating Islam in their life. Hey, what the heck? Okay, let's see. That's enough for today. Yeah. Are there any questions or comments?
I'd like to say something.
Yes.
It's about the president, right? And I'm not going off task, though. Let me tell y'all something. I told my wife 9 months ago, you know, defecating and toilet stool, we gotta go somewhere, right? So if you got 20 million people on Earth, they're using the bathroom, the product gotta go somewhere. Let me just put it like that, right? If the product gotta go somewhere, like Blue Plains, right? You know where Blue Plains at?
Yeah.
It's out of Virginia, right? Let me tell you what they said on the news today. Now, I said this 9 months ago. Let me tell y'all what I heard on the news today. Now the Blue Plains, the one, but it's still in Blue Plains anyway, so they already know it in the water. Let me tell y'all what happened when people went to the beaches and stuff. Remember, people kept getting sick? Yeah. Real quick. In Virginia, that scientist, the work at not in Blue Plains, the one in Virginia, they got a place where they clean the water up, that they supposed to get the feces out and release the water back. You know how they do. Yeah. So, in Virginia, the scientists took a little bottle, put it in a little bottle, sent it out, came back. Did that COVID-19. Then he did like 100 more, every one of them, COVID-19. Then he did some more, every one of them came back, COVID-19. So when them people was keep going to them beaches, you know, when they was going to the beaches and they was getting sick, remember they was going to the beaches and they kept getting sick, right, it's in the water. It's the COVID-19, it's in the water. See, you gotta say when somebody's sick.
Of course, yeah.
Come out. All that gotta go somewhere. And all that. Just think about all that. Feast. You know what I'm saying? So now they trying to figure out how they gonna stop that. It's in the water.
It's killing all the fish and everything else too.
Yeah, it's definitely in the water.
Yeah, it is killing all the fish.
Well, they're trying to clean up the Anacostia. They said 65% of the fish in the Anacostia got cancer.
But
Yeah, like all, huh?
if you really look at the ocean's gonna clean itself anyway. The ocean,
It would in the past. It's not, they've taken that ability.
right,
The ocean, the salt, the consistency, now the ocean has hair-like plastic all over the ocean.
yeah, they got a lot of stuff in the ocean.
Yeah, and it can't, that's why we say we have to have a 20-year period, at least, a minimum,
At least,
I mean, that's our reason for living, is that we go out on big giant barges that we can live on for months, and they send helicopters out to change the teams and all of that.
You know who else said that?
Who said that?
Jesse Ventura.
Good.
So I was listening to something, and this why, you know, when you say, when I listen,
Right.
I listen through,
Right.
you know, I filter everything through here.
Right.
And, you know, you said this years ago.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And just the other day, there was an interview, and he said the exact same. He said we should take the, but he said the military.
Right.
He said that we should take the military and go out and clean the ocean, or use the military to do it.
Well, we could use military ships like all them big aircraft carriers, but we need to build, I don't care if they foam or big giant buildings, 4 stories high, one big super barge, half a mile wide that has, trees and everything on it.
That's actually what he said. Use the ships.
Yeah, use the ships to pull them all out there, and then on the other, we have living quarters. On the other, we have cleaning quarters where we clean up and store all of that mess and compact all that plastic and put it on big, whatever we put it on, and bring it back here, put it out in the woods and cover it all up with dirt and plant trees around it. You'll have mountains 20 stories high of plastic, and don't produce no more plastic. No matter what you do it out of wood, do it out of metal like they used to, because all of that'll break down and plastic won't. But it's not just Jesse Ventura. You hear all kind of people are talking about this.
Right, no, I just,
That's, yeah.
I just happened to hear him, so it just brought it to mind.
We are not alone. It seems like we're alone right in here, but once we start reaching out, people gonna fall out of the woodwork. Their group.
not to cut you off. It's a coincidence, cause I went live about, after I do foraging, I sit out with my front, 'cause I got 6 cats. They was homeless cats, but I feed them every morning. They 15 years old, man, so they full grown. They won't go to nobody 'cause they're wild. Nobody never can pick them up. They run from people. But make a long story short, I went live. It's a coincidence, 'cause I went live this morning. Everything you talked about, everything, not everything, but basically everything you covered, I covered. I did it at 6 o'clock this morning.
Alhamdulillah. Very good. Very good.
You'll see it on Facebook.
No, that's wonderful. That means that we all in tune.
Get a dialogue in their language. So some people, like, let me just say this real quick though. I saw a Muslim brother and he was arguing with a brother that don't know nothing about Islam, or nothing. So I approached the brother, gave him a little downward, and I said it's 2020. Can't approach these young kids like that right today. You gotta hit them a different way. And you still can hit them with a suit and coupons. I do it every day. Every day. Inshallah. You know what I'm saying? But it's how you go. Like, if they smoking weed, you can't say, stop smoking weed, don't do that. That's bad for you. You know they're gonna do it anyway, but you gotta ease in on a different way. 2020. You gotta go in. You still can say whatever you want to say. And ease in on it. But you go in and like that, you're gonna get some vicious back from them like that. But if you go in with peace and with a different angle, they go and once they relax, strain the tongue, you know, it's a lot of things, put water on your face, lay down, you know, a lot of things you gotta do. You know what I'm saying? But, y'all do it.
Alhamdulillah. Any more comments?
No, there weren't any comments that came in, but actually there was a, I guess a brother had a comment, about the, what we used for the cover photo, the event you had, Muslim students, for justice, and then, the picture of, Imam Khomeini, and then there's also another picture with, Imam Malcolm there.
Right.
And, I have been thinking this through about how to articulate this, but a brother had hit us up in the messages, asked, let's see if I can find it. He was asking, well, what does Malcolm has to do with Iran or Khomeini? Malcolm was a Sunni Muslim. Put the pictures together, you're confusing people. And I was trying to figure out how to articulate that to the brother and explain to them the connection of, Islam movement back through the ages and across the different history. But maybe you could speak to that.
Sure. No, I will speak to that. First of all, the first Malcolm X stamp came out from Iran. Did you ever see that stamp? 84, yeah, it's a beautiful stamp. The students from the Islamic Republic, remember I told you the best programs that I attended on Malcolm X was the ones the Iranians brothers, and I'm telling you, Manhattan, Kansas, Lawrence, Kansas, and all that, all those places, they would be going to the black barbershops and everything, and they would be, hey, we having a Malcolm X program, we having a speaker coming from California, and the people said, what y'all know about Malcolm X? And they could run down the whole, they've studied Malcolm X probably more in detail than the Negroes have. Okay, that's one thing. So Malcolm X is not like Malcolm X come out of us, but when you grow to a certain level, you don't necessarily own that personality. They don't belong to you, they belong to humanity. Martin Luther King is one of those people. So whether it's Irish people or whoever, they belong to humanity. Some people reach that level. We've had it in it. Paul Robeson and those people were like that. They wasn't just, they evolved out of us. They'll always be a part of us. We always got that claim. But their adaptability and adjustability and their historic acclimatization with the whole global reality makes them a global citizen. You become a global citizen. So the thing that we would say about Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz is that now Malcolm was our reality. We grew, when we learned, all up in the 80s, we were still learning, listening to Malcolm, learning about self-image psychology and all of that. That man grew fast. He was on a roll. Now we show our honor to him and his evolution by us taking up. It's like if you have a professor, the good professor want you to outdo them. Yeah, a good coach, they ran track too, they played, they want you to outdo them, the good ones. They want you to break their records. So a lot of people, I remember when I was down in Atlanta, I was talking years ago about Beyond Malcolm. And some of the people was real, not nasty about it, but they would hint, talking about beyond Malcolm, and they would hint it and they think, I wouldn't respond because it take too much of your time and get you off base. And it was an insult. We have a group here that would go up to the grave of Malcolm all the time, every year. February 21st, they'd go up, and that was the day of his martyrdom. Okay, the thing about Malcolm X and the thing about Imam Khomeini and those people, it's the continuation of one revolution. That's one revolution. It's the human revolution. It's like I used to think about Iranians. I want to thank y'all for participating in our revolution, because the more I get into their revolution, and I was speaking so much on their platforms, I'd be wanting to tell them, I sure want to thank y'all for doing our revolution for us. In other words, you notice the way we talk about it's not only Iranians, it's Chinese, what we get out of it. You know what I mean? I have a whole book on every group of people. It don't make no difference whether it was Fidel, whether it was Marcus Garvey, or all of those, Gandhi, all of those people added to the human progress. And each one of them can teach us something. But in the final analysis, we have to apply the best of all of that for now. That's our job right now. This is more complicated. In Malcolm's time, if you would have solved the race problem, home free, the economy was good, the air pollution was bad, getting bad, but it wasn't finished. You could still go out in the woods and breathe fresh air and 65, stuff like that. So if we'd have solved the race problem then, if you solve the race problem now, you ain't doing nothing. You ain't doing nothing. It's all right. If you solve the race problem, it's just one out of a zillion problems. So, in those days, Fred Hampton and all that was good with working with white people. They killed him right away. They killed him. We're going to have to work with every kind. In fact, we said decades ago that our closest allies will be tree huggers and people like that. Environmentalists. Because the race problem then was just, it's important, but we got to solve the whole thing now is messed up. So that's what Malcolm have to do with the revolution and evolution. And remember, all of the people, draw stuff from everybody. Don't be just the Long March, man, shoot, that was an epic. And Iran, 8 years of fighting that was World War III, right there. The whole world was on one side, and they was all against Iran. That's beyond, that has never happened. Especially, it would have to be modern times, with modern communication, with modern political systems. The whole UN and everybody, all the Arab states, everybody was against Iran, and they survived. That's deep. That's real deep. And when I was looking at it, I knew it. I was telling them, they didn't know even now. Why do you think when we talk to Iran, the first thing we say, we want to thank the Iranian people and the Islamic Revolution. Because right now, look at them now. They still rolling right along. They were having it bad here and there, and they are still here. The whole United States has unloaded on them, and prevents anyone else from helping them. Everybody know they're doing wrong. Russia know they're doing wrong. China know they're doing wrong. Right? All of them, they signed the agreement. But they done stumbled around for years. Oh, we're going to try to do this. We're going to sneak a little. Yeah, they sneak a little, but they're not doing their part. So the other thing is why we keep that thing like it is. The Iranian brother, who's a tattletale, and his helper, they started that. We just said, you know, we'll update it when we get ready, when we think it's necessary. For right now, we leave it just like it is. Muslims for just whatever it is. Yeah, it's okay. Remember, we're on a time schedule that it appears that Allah is managing that schedule here and everywhere, because everything is happening at just the right time. I don't know if everybody else noticed that, but everything is happening at the right time. If any intersecting with any idea or reality at any other time to just lead us off our course just a little bit, we wouldn't be here right now. I think where we are right now, at our stage of development, is where we're supposed to be. That's what I think. Okay, any more questions or comments?
Actually, there's one more.
Yeah.
This was someone that reached out. Is that technically covered during the entire course of the lecture, but he was asking like, Assalamu alaikum, what are the aims and objectives of this space? He says page or group, but really it's our organization, and we have about 5 items that were 5 or 6 or so that we hit every single lecture, but if we just briefly kind of summarize.
Okay. Well, first of all, we get our name As-Sabiqun from As-Sabiqun al-Awwalun min al-Muhajirin wal-Ansar wat-Tabi'in. So, the vanguard of Islam, As-Sabiqun al-Awwalun. Those are the first rank in Islam. Sabiq or Sabaqa means to win in a race. It means to go out first, right? It means to be premeditated in your actions. So a premeditated action, it means also to anticipate what needs to be done. In the Quran, As-Sabiqun referred the Mufassirs hint at the people that accepted Islam before Badr. Badr was 18 months or so after the Hijrah. Before Badr, when you accepted Islam, it was blood, sweat, and tears. You wasn't, you wasn't going to get the prize or anything. You was going to get oppressed. After the Battle of Badr, and it was 313 Muslims whooped over 1,000 others, Quraysh, and it looked like, hey, wait a minute, this thing might be around a while. So As-Sabiqun and Tafsir usually refer to people that accepted Islam in the early years. But that's not a rule, that's just the way many people accept it. Okay, so As-Sabiqun are the people that go out front, and there's 2 terms that are used. Those who lead the way and those who show the way. As-Sabiqun might come out and do, As-Sabiqun As-Sabiqun do exactly what we did during the last phase. We showed the people everything, all our literature, all the work we did was exactly what was needed to be done. We did that, okay? How they react to it is their business, but we did our part. See, As-Sabiqun are not required to, their job is to anticipate what should happen and premeditatively go out and do it. What should be done? They say, the dictionary, it says things like, they say they couldn't be stopped, or they said something without knowing why, or you know what I mean? So As-Sabiqun, to get back to the specific definition, are those who go out first. As-Sabiqun al-Awwalun, those are the people who go out first. They do the job and they take care of all the business and they get it done. We did that before in the last phase. We're in a new phase. That's where we're headed right now. That's why we talk about organization over mobilization. Because organization means that you put first of all, you have certain goals and you put the pieces in place and the job description and all that lead in a certain way. Okay, right now, the job of As-Sabiqun is related to Islam and Muslims, but it have global implications. It has global implications because we're in a global situation. And we have to do the best we can to, let's say, show the way. And we use the word lead the way, the second meaning, carefully. Because if we show the way, it's the same as what we did before. We showed the way what you got to do. We always piped in on unity. We always piped in on discipline. We always did things without asking for anything in return. We always did that. And we always were more giving than we are going out trying to receive, where other people might be different than that. So that's what we did. As-Sabiqun, we came out and we did our job. Some examples: revelation and revolution. Revelation, especially at that time, if you look at Prophet Musa, peace be upon him, he had technically a revolution, but it was based on revelation. He did all the things. They had their long march. They run around and right. They did all of that. But it was based on revelation, right? So if you look at all the prophets and people of the past, all of them were in their own way revolutionaries. They came. Who did they have to go up against? 90% of the time they had to go up against the boss man of their day, right? But they did it based on revelation. Okay, now we have a two-phase project. Our project of As-Sabiqun is for the Muslims. We want them to live up to the Quranic expectations, and we want them to play a major part in their own evolution. In other words, we want in our Islamic countries, let's call it Islam light. Islam, well, the rules and guidelines of Islam, but you're not standing there like in Saudi Arabia, they beat you if you don't pray almost, or they make you, it's ridiculous. I mean, you know, okay. Now also the transition. We always say that we want to influence the direction of change. We don't want to make nobody do nothing. Influence of direction of change means As-Sabiqun want to influence the direction of change and be an integral part of the Earth Liberation Movement. We say that we want to free the Earth from the parasite known as a human being. Where the parasite has gotten control, the parasite is out to destroy the host. So the flea has gotten so big that he's ready to devour or destroy the dog. Or they done outnumbered so much that the dog is incapable of it. Why? Because of the host has become weaker. As far as revelation is concerned, Allah, we talked about it the other day, Allah sent the Quran. He created the earth and with balance. It has balance. That's what Mizan is all about. So that's what, if you want to find out what the goals are, the goals would be, for instance, right here in the masjid. They're the same as what they've always been. And they will be reflected in a big way in this first stage. Masjid, school, business, living close together. When we get our $100 million or 50, whatever it is, in California, we're going to build houses on these lots so we can be close to the masjid for prayer and everything that we want to do. Eventually, we will reopen schools, because if you don't teach the children how to, the last school we had, it was fine, but we wasn't. The kids was going here, they all go to the biggest schools around. They're all good graduates, everybody, you know, okay. So they did good. But they had a pledge that we will die for Islam, but then I don't know if they headed in that direction. Okay, that's okay. Islam is our life and all of that stuff. That's good. That's basically where we want to go. We want to be part of the one that show the way during this period, if necessary. And it might, I'm sure it might come to that we would get so organized and so disciplined that it would need an organization to lead the way. And in human history, that comes up almost all the time. It's not ad hoc, you know, but it's usually a disciplined group and leadership, but a group that's not common. It'd be uncommon. It would be more like the Sahaba. See, other organizations, whether it's the mafia or whether it's the FLN, all the liberation movements, they had rules that they might as well have been communists or killers. If you broke a rule, they would say, they didn't have no forgiveness. The guy said, man, I just wanted to get a refrigerator. He said, hell, we're going to put you in a refrigerator and freeze you to death. That's what we're going to do. You know, we don't want to have anything to do with that type. So,
Your shirt actually says what you're.
right, let that rise out of you. Yep.
Yeah, that's all the questions. Yeah.
Okay. I hope we answered the basic questions for today. And we thank y'all very much. And
Can I ask y'all for 2 minutes?
sure, yeah.
You were talking about Malcolm, right? I
Mhm.
made this tape, this already on Facebook, but I think I did that a month ago.
Good.